Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, verse 30, and the chapter is entitled The Departure of Lord Krishna to Dwarka, and the class will be given by His Grace Vishnupada Prabhu from ISKCON, Philadelphia.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kripa Sundaravevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo.
Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
And it's all yours.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shishimar His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. We're reading, studying, and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, 10th chapter, 30th verse. Eta param Stritvam upasta peshalam nirasta shaucham bata sadhu kurvate yasam grihat pushkara lochana patir najatva paitya bitibhir vidishprishan. Eta param Stritvam upasta peshalam nirasta shaucham bata sadhu kurvate yasam grihat pushkara lochana patir najatva paitya vitibhir vidisprishan. Eta param Stritvam upasta peshalam nirasta shaucham bata sadhu kurvate yasam grihat pushkara lochana patir najatva paitya hritibhir vidisprishan. This chant.
Yeah.
Eta param stritvam apastapeshalam nirasta shaucham bata sadhu kurvati yasam grihat pushkara lochana pati najatva paiti aharatibhir hridi sprishan.
Etat param stritvam apastapeshalam virasta shocham bhata sadhu kurvate yasam grihat pushkara lochana pati najatva patya tibir hidi spisham.
Eta param sritvam apastapeshalam nirasta sokam bata sadhu kurvate yasham grihat pushkara lochana patir najatva patya hritibhir hridip sprishan.
One more person, come on. It's a little tough one, this one.
Etam param stritvam apastapeshalam nirasta shaucham bat sadhu kurvate yasam grahat pushkara lochana pati najatva apaiti arhitbhir hriday sparshan.
Thank you, dear Krishna Prabhu. Eta, all these women. Param, highest. Stritvam, womanhood. Apastapeshalam, without individuality, nirasta, without, shaucham, purity, bata sadhu, auspiciously glorified, kurvate, do they make, gyasham, from whose, grihat, homes, pushkaralochana, the lotus-eyed, pati, husband, najatu, never at any time, upayati, goes away, ahriti, by presentation, hridi, in the heart, sprishan, endeared. Translation. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. Let's read that once more. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. Purport. The devotees of the Lord are purified souls. As soon as the devotees surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord sincerely, the Lord accepts them. And thus the devotees are at once become free from all material contaminations. Such devotees are above the three modes of material nature. There is no bodily disqualification of a devotee, just as there is no qualitative difference between the Ganges water and the filthy drain water when they are amalgamated. Women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent, and thus it is very difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. They are more materialistic, and less than them are the Kiratas, Hunas, Andras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abhiras, Kunkas, Yavanas, Kasas, etc. But all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. By engagement in the service of the Lord, the designative disqualifications are removed. And as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. The fallen girls under the clutches of Bhaumasura sincerely prayed to Lord Sri Krishna for their deliverance, and their sincerity of purpose made them at once pure by virtue of devotion. The Lord therefore accepted them as his wives, and thus their lives became glorified. Such auspicious glorification was still more glorified when the Lord played with them as the most devoted husband. The Lord used to live with his 16,108 wives constantly. He expanded himself into 16,108 plenary portions, and each and every one of them was the Lord himself, without deviation from the original personality. The Shruti mantra affirms that the Lord can expand himself into many. As husband of so many wives, he pleased them all with presentations, even at a costly endeavor. He brought the Parijata plant from heaven and implanted it at the palace of Satyabhama, one of the principal queens. If therefore anyone desires the Lord to become one's husband, the Lord fulfills such desires in full. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sha Pandantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. So we're talking here, there's a series of prayers and discussions by the ladies in Hastinapur as Lord Krishna is leaving for Dwarka. And here they're talking about the wives of Lord Krishna. They discussed the principal wives of Lord Krishna who were taken away in by fighting in the Swayamvara or by force, like who are some? Draupadi. No, sorry. Rukmini. You know, then there was Satya and others. There were so many bulls that Lord Krishna subdued. But this verse is focusing on those other queens who were rescued by Lord Krishna when he defeated Bhaumasur in Pratyojik. What is the name of that place?
Prabhu, it never rolled in my tongue.
Pratyojishapur, something like that.
So, yeah, something like that.
It's in northeastern India. That's where Bhaumasur had his capital. So there were 16,100 of those princesses who had been taken and kept in a prison by the demon Bhaumasur. So the reason it's said that they were without purity is because, you know, why? Why is it said that they were without purity? Anybody?
Is it because the princesses were kidnapped by this demon Bhaumasura? So when a girl is captured by or kidnapped by someone, then it's automatically considered that the girl is impure or something like that.
Yeah, not only kidnapped but kept, kept there away from home. Just like Mother Sita was kept by Ravana, so then there was question about her purity. So similarly, these ladies were kept away from home, without protection by their father or son or husband. So they were considered that they had a consideration of being not apparently pure. And there's also this talk about without individuality. And I didn't see that Srila Prabhupada talked about that in the purport here. At least I didn't, maybe I didn't make the connection in the purport. So there was, because there were 16,100 of them. What do you make of that? Without individuality.
Prabhu, what's coming to my limited knowledge is when a woman is kidnapped or captured or whatever out away from the home of the parents, they are not only are they considered impure, but they lose their sense of position or status, or like they are looked down upon.
Okay, so in that sense,
that's what's coming to me. Yeah, like well, when a girl is under the care of the father, she's referred to as so-and-so's daughter, or if she's married to, referred to as so-and-so's wife. But if she's captured, then who is she? That's what's coming to my mind.
Okay, certainly that's a possibility. I'm just trying to understand it. Yeah, yeah. Anybody else have some contribution there? I was also thinking that you know, the other queens were married individually. You know, Rukmini was married, and Jambavati, Satyabhama, they had their individual weddings, but these queens were married all at once, 16,100 of them. So, you know, if a woman gets married, you know, there was a large marriage, one groom and 25 brides, then they may have some unhappiness about that because they're all of them together. So anyway, that's how I was thinking it, but it could be both things or another thing too. It's not explained. So they're being without individuality and without purity, as we explained, but because they were engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, which began by their offering sincere prayers, vandanam, to the Lord accepted them, and they immediately became completely pure, above the modes of material nature. The verse is there in Bhagavad Gita. Mam chayo abhyabhacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityayetan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. So it's that person who's engaged in full devotional service without deviation, they immediately rise above the three modes of material nature, which are always deluding us and contaminating us and leading us astray. So this is a really very important point. By full devotional service, immediately one becomes purified. Srila Prabhupada in 1971 in the temple in New York at Henry Street. So there were many days of initiation because Srila Prabhupada hadn't been in the United States for some time. So maybe 6 days straight, or there was an initiation ceremony held, and each time there may be 25 devotees being initiated. And sometimes Srila Prabhupada gave the lecture, but sometimes he had another devotee give the lecture while he was sitting on the Vyasasana. So during one of those lectures, the devotee giving the talk was saying, you know, these initiates, they don't have any qualification. They may not be very intelligent, very rich, coming from good families, etc., etc. So then Srila Prabhupada interrupted the speaker from the Vyasasana, and he said, but just by coming to Krishna consciousness, they develop all good qualifications. So that's he didn't often interrupt, but he interrupted in this case, making this same point that a person who's actually surrendered and engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, they naturally develop all the good qualities manifested in the demigods. The verse is there. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratenasati davato bahi. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the material plane and is sure to be attracted to the glaring material energy. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto. So it's an interesting point that in the early days of the Krishna consciousness movement, while doing service, you know, say like washing pots, cutting vegetables, doing other things, it was really impressed upon new devotees. I remember it was to me that devotees memorize certain things. I don't know if it was for you when you first joined Krishna consciousness, but the first thing we had to remember, we had to memorize were the samsara prayers, so the Guru Ashtakam, right? Samsara Dava Nalalita Lok, and not only the English, not only the Sanskrit, but the English as well. So that as you're going along, there would be devotees. Okay, what's the first verse? What's the second verse? So it'd be good. And you know the second thing we learned, I had to memorize. Any ideas?
Shishastakam?
Good guess, but it wasn't that. No.
Really?
I'm not maybe it was just the way we were. Any other guesses?
Guru Puja?
Guru Puja.
Actually, Guru Puja didn't start until 1974. That Sri Guru Charana Padma. So I joined the temple in 1971. So yeah.
Govindamadi Purusham, the greeting the deities prayers.
Another good guess, but no. I'll
Shat Goswami Ashtak.
another good guess, but no. It was the second thing they had me learn was the 26 qualities of a devotee. That was the second thing we had to learn. I remember, and I memorized it back then, but in the course of time, I've forgotten some of them. But Srila Prabhupada commented that these 26 qualities, they are automatically manifest in the person of the devotee who's advancing in Krishna consciousness. So it's not that one has to endeavor separately for getting these qualities, but by engaging wholeheartedly in the service of Krishna, they develop. He also said, though, that one can judge one should check one's advancement by seeing how these 26 qualities are developing in oneself. So it's not that we're trying to develop them separately, but it should be naturally be manifesting for us. So I thought we'd review those 26 qualities, not to make us discouraged about how we're not making very much advancement, but to give a little bit of a show of what, a yardstick about how we can judge our advancement. Okay. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has cited the 26 qualities that automatically become manifest in the body of the Vaishnava. And it says that only by the presence of these qualities can one distinguish a Vaishnava from a non-Vaishnava. Number one, anybody know the first one? Anybody know the first one, any by chance?
Prabhu, I think it's Kripa.
Kind to everyone, yeah. Kind to
kindness.
everyone. So it's not that they're kind to their clan and they are inimical to the others, somebody who's outside their clan, or they're kind to human beings and they kill and eat the goats or the cows, but they're kind to everyone. Does not quarrel with anyone, truthful, equal to everyone, faultless, charitable, mild, clean, without possessions, works for everyone's benefit, peaceful, surrendered to Krishna, has no material desire, meek, steady, controls his senses. He does not eat more than required. He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy, offers respect to everyone, does not desire any respect for himself, grave, merciful, friendly, poetic, expert. Anybody know the last one by any chance?
Silent.
Yes, very good, very good. Silent. So silent meaning that they don't speak material vibrations, only spiritual vibrations, material silence. Yeah. So these 26 qualities, because the queens of the these 16,100 queens were surrendered to Krishna, they automatically developed these wonderful qualities, and therefore they're eligible to be glorified as being done here. And Srila Prabhupada comments in this purport also. He says that, you know, the women laborers and merchants are usually not thought to be very smart, very intelligent. Yeah, so, and then he goes on to say, and what about these others? That's what to speak of, and less than those are the Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulinda, Pulkashas. Where do we fit in this one? Where do we fit in? We're among those Andhras, no, Pulindas, Pulkashas. Yeah. I think you might know where this verse comes from. Anybody? This Kirata. There's a verse when Shukadev Goswami in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is asked by Maharaj Parikshit to describe the creation of the universe. And at the beginning of his response to Parikshit Maharaj, he begins to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead with prayers before answering Parikshit Maharaj's question. And near the end of that prayers of glorification to Lord Krishna, he speaks a verse, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumba Yavana Kasadaya Yenye Chapapa Yadupashraya Shraya Shudyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Nama. So he cites all these different ethnicities, I guess you could say, ethnicities or locations, nations of different kinds of human beings. Kiratas, you know, the Kiratas they're often described as hunters or Aborigine type people living in the mountains or the hilly tracts where they don't have away from more civilized situations. Kirata, the Huns. Huns are the Huns, Eastern German, Western Russian people. Andhra. What about the Andhras? Anybody?
I'm afraid to say, but it sounds like the Andhra Pradesh in India, but I don't know.
Yes, it is. It's
It
Andhra.
is?
Andhra.
Okay.
So this is an interesting point. I don't know how the Andhras got mixed in with the Kiratas and Huns, because usually you think of the Andhras people are this we're talking of the Andhra people nowadays. They're usually pretty religious people, pretty, they follow Vedic systems. They're especially, so it may be, and this is only speculation, that at this time the Andhras were more uncivilized than they are now, perhaps by the preaching of Lord Chaitanya, his associates, and Sri Ramanujacharya and his associates. But anyway, the Andhras, Pulindas, Greeks, then Abhiras, Shumbas, those are the Arabs. Yavana means the Turks, Kasadaya, the Chinese. All these people, why are they considered lower than the merchants, women, and laborers? Is because they weren't at all following any of the Vedic system at all. So even they, Yenye Chapapa, and others, and others, Chapapa, who are very sinful, Yadupashraya Shraya Shudyanti, if they take shelter of the devotee of the Lord, they become completely purified. This is Shukadev Goswami saying this 5,000 years ago. And one could think that this is a prediction of the activities of Srila Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna movement. Because where is that movement? Where is that circumstance where all these types of different people have been purified by coming in touch with the devotee of the Lord and surrendering to Lord Krishna? That's very interesting. Just by that process of surrender to Lord Krishna and engaging in full devotional service, they all Vikaratas, Huns, etc., have become purified. And there's temples there in all those places. So then we were talking, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead. He never left them alone at home. So I was thinking about that, trying to understand, because we know that when Narad Muni was checking on Lord Krishna, he went to the different palaces, 16,108 palaces, and he noticed that in every palace, Lord Krishna was doing something different. A yogi might be able to expand themselves in many different 8 or 9 different forms, but each form has to do the same thing as the other forms, like a mirror image. But Narada Muni was enlivened and very surprised that Lord Krishna in every palace was doing something different. So then there was these 16,108 expansions of Lord Krishna. But then in the morning, when he went to work in the assembly house, what happened?
All the Krishnas would join together and enter as one.
Yes, so there was one. So when you say never left them alone at home, I get, he went to the Sudharma assembly house, so it never left them alone at home means for a long time. That's how I understand it, because he went to work. He went to the Sudharma assembly house, and the wives were there, still at home. They didn't come with him to the Sudharma assembly house, although he did take them to, when he went to Kurukshetra, Kurukshetra, when there was the solar eclipse, he took the wives there. So he didn't leave them at home. But there were a few times when Lord Krishna did leave Dwarka and left them at home. You can imagine that if a husband, the wife is very attached to the husband, she doesn't want the husband to leave. And if you multiply that 16,108 times, that's a lot of attachment, right? So when Lord Krishna, after the Rajasuya sacrifice, right after the Rajasuya sacrifice, he heard that there was trouble in Dwarka. You remember this? There's trouble in Dwarka because Shalva was attacking Dwarka, and his son Pradyumna was defending, but it wasn't going so well. So Lord Krishna had to hurry off and from the Rajasuya sacrifice and liberated Shalva. And then after that, Narada Muni said, well, there's one other demon that's causing trouble. Who's that? Shishupal's friend, Dantavakra. He was itching for a fight. So Lord Krishna, the battle that Lord Krishna had with Dantavakra, by the way, it didn't occur near Dwarka. It occurred near Mathura. There's a town there called Dantiha, where Lord Krishna killed Dantavakra. So he had to leave Dwarka at that time, and the residents of Dwarka were very, very much against his leaving, because he doesn't leave them alone at home. But on the plea of doing his work, he has to take care of this demon, he left. So the residents of Dwarka had two concerns. One was, they didn't want Lord Krishna to leave, but the other hand, they knew also that there were these great devotees in Vrindavan that he really had great affection for. So if he leaves and goes back to Vrindavan, that might be a problem. So anyway, he left Dwarka on the plea of taking care of Dantavakra and liberating Dantavakra, which occurred outside of Mathura. And then, you know what he did? He took a visit to Vrindavan. This isn't described in the Krishna book. This is in the Srimad Bhagavatam purport in the 10th canto. So when, there were the devoted, this happened after uh, the Rajasuya sacrifice, and after Krishna was had met the gopis and others in Kurukshetra. So he had done this. So he visited the residents of Vrindavan at that time and showed the spiritual world to them. So then I had a question. We talked about how when Lord Krishna left the palaces, the 16,108 palaces, he would merge into one, right? Yeah. So what happened when, in this latter part of this purport, it talks about how Lord Krishna had gone to Pratyojik Sapur and killed and liberated Bhaumasura. And he took, who he took with him on that journey? Yeah, Satyabhama. Satyabhama was on Garuda there. So was that the Krishna, the Krishna all merged into one, or did they have? You follow? Because it says he never left them alone at home. So when he went with Satyabhama, was that the? I don't know the answer to that question, because so the question is there. I don't know. Any comments on that?
Prabhu, I had heard, I'm not sure if it's true, that all the demons or whoever were killed by Vasudev Krishna. So I'm
Yes,
not sure.
that's true. Yes. I mean, Vasudev Krishna is there in Dwarka. Vasudev Krishna is there in Dwarka. And so those 16,108 Krishnas are all Vasudev Krishna, right? Vasudev, Vasudev Krishna. So anyway, but when we talk about he pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations, and then Srila Prabhupada gives the example of one of the valuable presentations was what? You don't know what valuable presentations? One of the valuable presentations was, he gave that to Satyabhama, was the Parijata tree, right? What is the Parijata tree? What do you know about the Parijata tree?
It was in the heavenly planets.
Yeah.
Very much, Indra was very much attached to it.
Yeah, Indra liked that Parijata tree. It's in the heavenly planets. I'm going to read something to you about this Parijata. I searched for Parijata and in the Veda base. So I found some things which I didn't remember, or I wasn't aware of. So let me just read a little bit about the Parijata tree. The Parijata tree is not commonly found within this material world. The Parijata tree is also known as Kalpabriksha, or the wish-fulfilling tree. One can get anything he desires from such a tree. In the material world, one can get oranges from an orange tree or mangoes from a mango tree, but there is no possibility of getting oranges from a mango tree or vice versa. However, one can get whatever he wants from the Parijata tree: oranges, mangoes, bananas, and so on. This tree is found in the spiritual world. Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpabriksha lakshabriteshu. The spiritual world, Chintamani Dham, is surrounded by these kalpabriksha trees. But the Parijata tree is also found in the kingdom of Indra, that is, on Indra's heavenly planet. This Parijata tree was brought by Krishna to please Satyabhama, one of his queens, And this tree was implanted in the Dvaraka mansions constructed for the queens. The lotus feet of the Lord are exactly like the Parijata tree, or wish-fulfilling trees. And the devotees are like bumblebees, always attracted by the lotus feet of the Lord. So what do you think of that? So the Parijata is equated with the Kalpabriksha, according to that purport from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto. I was surprised by that. Whoops, what happened? Oh, something happened. Yeah, the Parijata tree. So apparently, the Parijata is an import from the spiritual sky into this material world. Are there other things that are imported from the spiritual sky to the material world?
Ruvaloka. Ruvaloka.
Yeah. Dhuvaloka is the local Vaikuntha planet. What else? Who else? What else?
The holy name, Prabhu.
Yes. Golokera Prema Dhan Harinam Sankirtan. The holy name, the congregational chanting of the holy names is coming, the congregational chanting of the holy names is coming directly from the spiritual sky, according to Narottam Das Thakur. And, avatars, all kinds of avatars. Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Ramchandra, all these avatars are also coming from the spiritual world. Tulsi Devi. So there's all these different kinds of incarnations, right? Here we have Tulsi Devi, an incarnation of Tulsi, and Parijata is an incarnation of the Kalpavriksha trees in the spiritual world. That's pretty amazing. So anyway, this was something that Lord Krishna arranged. So what happened was, when one of the reasons that Lord Krishna was going after Bhaumasura was not only for the 16,100 queens, but also because Bhaumasura had stolen the earrings of Aditi, who was the mother of Indra and the demigods. So after he defeated and liberated Bhaumasura, he took those earrings and he wanted to personally give them back. So he gave them to Indra to give to his mom, Aditi. And it just so happened that while he was there, what had happened previously was, one time, Narad Muni would travel to the heavenly planets, visited Dwarka with one flower from the Parijata tree, and gave it to Rukmini. So then Rukmini very much was pleased by that, but the co-wife of Lord Krishna, Satyabhama, became a little bit jealous. So Krishna promised, this is how things work in the world, right? Krishna said, well, why you wanted just one flower? She wanted a flower. So she says, why do you want one flower? Why not get a whole tree? So when he took Satyabhama, apparently there to the heavenly planet of Indra, when he returned the earrings of Aditi, he said, well, now take the opportunity. We should take the opportunity, get a Parijata tree. So he arranged to get that. It's funny because in the Krishna book it says that Satyabhama took the tree and put it on the back of Garuda. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam translation by Haridayananda Maharaj, it says that Lord Krishna, Satyabhama arranged for Lord Krishna to pick up the tree and put it on the back of Garuda. But anyway, one way or the other, the Parijata tree came back to Dwaraka and was planted in the palace of Satyabhama, as it's mentioned in that purport that I read. But then an interesting point is that when you read in the activities of Lord Krishna, in chapter 70 in the 10th canto, or 70 in the Krishna book, what happens in the morning? What happens in the morning? If you remember the activities of Lord Krishna, he does exemplary activities for the human society. Remember? Come on, you know. So he's there in each 16,108 palaces with his queens sleeping very nicely, and the queens are embracing him, of course. And then the rooster crows. Yeah,
and Krishna gets up.
Yeah, it's Brahma Muhurta hour.
To the objection of the queens.
Yeah, they get mad. They curse, and he gets up. And what does he smell? What do they smell at that time? They smell the aroma, the scent of the parijata, because apparently, somehow or other, it's described that the parijata is in the garden of every single palace. So I don't know how that happened, but it said in a couple of places that afterwards the parijata is there in every single palace. So that would make sense, you know. So Satyabhama got the parijata first, but apparently all the palaces eventually got the parijata, and so Lord Krishna pleased all the queens in that way by making valuable presentations. So this is the exchange of love between the devotee and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says that he says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya priyachtiti tadaham bhakti upahitam ashnami prayatatmana. If you offer me with a leaf, fruit, flower, or water with love and devotion, I will accept it. Ashnami means accept and eat. I will eat it. He just wants to set up a loving exchange between himself and the devotee, because that is the natural condition of life in the spiritual world, just as is being reflected here. So a devotee is enlivened to be able to make offerings to the Lord, patram pushpam palam toyam, chant the holy names of the Lord, offer nice incense to the Lord, chant prayers to the Lord in love, and Krishna will reciprocate. He reciprocates for the loving, and that's called loving exchange. How will he reciprocate? Well, that depends on each devotee's situation and desires. Like a kalpa vriksha, he'll reciprocate, because it said that the Lord's lotus feet are just like the parijata or kalpa vriksha tree. So, according that this is the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. By doing that devotional service, Krishna will reciprocate with you in such a way that will help you make progress in devotional service to become fully joyful, fully blissful in your loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the mercy of the Lord's pure devotee. Okay.
Such a wonderful class, Prabhu. So sweet. Thank you so much. I definitely learned. So I'm you know, and that's one of the many reasons why I look forward to your class, because as you ask questions, I'm learning, and then I make my notes. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for making it so interactive and such a learning lesson for all of us. Would like to ask devotees, if you have any questions, any comments, please do jump right in, or and you can just post it in the chat and I will read it out for you. Prabhu, when you were mentioning Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna book, about which point was that you mentioned? Oh, about Satyabhama and the Parijata flowers. Is that in the 11th canto, Prabhu, that Srinana Maharaj wrote, or is it?
10th canto.
It's in the 10th canto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada did translated them up to the Brahma Vimohan Lila, give translation and purport there. After that, in the 10th canto, is Sridayananda Maharaj.
Okay.
And you'll find that most of the parts in the 10th canto, he's often just quoting from the Krishna book. But there are parts where he adds the translations of commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and sometimes others. So,
Okay.
for example, that thing I quoted about about Lord Krishna when he went to Mathura, outside of Mathura, to kill Dantavakra and then visited with the residents of Vrindavan. That's there in the purport, and so it's not in the Krishna book. Of these Srimad Bhagavatam verses about when he killed Dantavakra, liberated Dantavakra.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Which is
So-
an interesting detail. We usually say that Krishna never, on one hand we say Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but on the other hand, we said that once he left, he left at the age of 12 or something to go to Mathura to liberate Kamsa or kill Kamsa. He didn't return, but apparently he did. I see Nitya Gopal Prabhu is there.
Yes, please ask your question, Nitya Gopal.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Mataji Dandot Pranam, Jai Sri Prabhupada. So wonderful class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I was just not able to make the conclusion. Is Swargaloka or abode of Indra, Devloka is part of our material universe, or they are like part of Haridham? Like
It's
as
part of the, yes. Indra Loka is Swarga Loka. So it's part of the material world. We say like in the Om Bhur Bhuva Swa. That's the, there's Bhu is our planetary system. Bhuva is the next one. Swarga Loka is the next higher planetary system. There's 7 higher planetary systems. It's material. But from this, we can understand from this that even though material, some things have been imported from the spiritual sky. And one of those things is Parijata or Kalpavriksha. Kalpavriksha there, even though it's a material world, that's a spiritual tree.
so the Devloka or Swargaloka is a part of one of the 14 planets up to somewhere around Satyaloka.
There's 7 upwards, so it's from us, Bhuva, Swa, the third one up from us. Then Mahajana, Tapa, Satya goes like that.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, I always had that confusion. Is it, Brahma Samhita categorized as like a Devi Dham, Mahesh Dham, Hari Dham.
Yes. Goloka namni nija dhamni tale chatasya Devi Mahesha Haridam Sute Shute Shute Te Prabhava Nijaya Vihatasya Jena Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. It's part of Devi Dham, yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Nitya Gopal. Prabhu, I have a question that I've been wanting to ask you 2 or 3 weeks ago. I kind of forgot, so I'm glad that Nitya Gopal brought up this question. Is Siddhaloka within the material planet or above?
Yeah.
Prabhu?
It's,
With material.
I don't know. Sometimes Brahma Loka is called Siddha Loka. Sometimes I think it can be. I can check on that. If we sometimes Siddha Loka, it might be described as a spiritual world too, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I'll look into that. Usually, you see the 7 are Bhu, Bhuva, Swa, Mahar, Jana, Tapa, Satya. Right, that's 7. And there's 7 downward. Yeah. So the Siddha isn't ordinarily included in that. So Siddha Lok means the place where all these beings are perfected. Siddha Lok. So I'll check.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Any questions from devotees? Any points? Prabhu, there was one phrase that caught my attention in the purport. Where is that? Where Srila Prabhupada used the phrase sincerity of purpose. Oh, yes, it's in the second paragraph, Prabhu, where Srila Prabhupada wrote, the fallen girls under the clutches of Bhaumasura sincerely prayed to Lord Krishna for their deliverance, and their sincerity of purpose made them at once pure by virtue of devotion. Can you expand or explain more on that part, Prabhu? Sincerity of purpose made them pure by virtue of devotion.
So we say, Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukuyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. The activities that we have in life, they're motivated or purpose, their purpose is sometimes for material gain, sometimes for knowledge or, knowledge for its own sake, or for spiritual abilities like mystic power. So those are not sincerely in purpose. The sincerity of purpose for a devotee is only exclusively thinking, how can I please Krishna by these activities? Anya means other. Anyabilashita. Ashita means hoping for or desiring for. Anya, other desires are shunyam, finished, no other desire, but only what desire? To please Krishna. That's their sincerity. In the Prema Vivarta says, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Bole Kam. Krishnendriya Priti Icha Dhare Prem Nam. The desire of focusing on you satisfying one's own senses, that's called Kam. Atmendriya Priti Vancha, wanting to. Tare Bole Kam, that's called lust. Krishnendriya Priti, satisfying the senses of Krishna. Icha, wanting to do that. Hare Prem Nam, that's called love. So they were only exclusively focused in their prayers and their surrender on pleasing Krishna, not for anything else.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much. That helped. Thank you. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts, any clarification, takeaways? You can jump right in before we end the class. And Prabhu, this was such a sweet class. Really, thank you so much. I would love to play it again and get some points. It was definitely a learning lesson that we have to go back and hear and make some notes. So thank you for making it so nice. And we thank the devotees for joining us. Vancha kraptibhyascha, kripasimabhevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much for the class, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.